The title of my talk is The Eightfold Path, My Octopus Teacher. So the traditional image of the Eightfold Path is the spokes on a wheel, a large wheel with 8 spokes. And those 8 spokes make the wheel turn smoothly. And a wobbly wheel is a representation of dukkha. When one of the spokes is not working in unison, the wheel won't turn well. It will be wobbly. And wheels were a relatively new invention in the Buddhist time, about 1,000 years old. So they really changed the way people lived. It was a very important representation. And so and I'm jumping to the octopus, after seeing my octopus teacher, it really changed the way I looked at octopus and octopuses. I don't know the plural exactly. And my feeling towards them and the world they live in. And not just mine, I heard many people talk about this. It illuminated their existence. So it feels very appropriate to use this modern day representation of the Eightfold Path and some of their characteristics that really embody our reflective meditation take on the Eightfold Path. So here she is, she, he, they. So in the image, we can see 8 arms. We can't see the 9 brains. Each arm has a brain, and then as well as the brain with the eyes. The arms don't have eyes, although they have a different set of eyes probably. But each arm has wisdom and agency with this capacity to think, feel, move on its own. But they also work together. The arms work together, they touch each other, they intertwine, they help each other, they enhance each other. Very similar to the 8 arms, the 8 spokes on the Eightfold Path wheel. But they're mutually supportive, so they work together as one, but there's also times when certain take precedence or dominance. They don't work in a particular order. So, for example, you might have one arm, be the lead and the others kind of help, and then some just are on standby. And that's how we look at the spokes of the wheel, the Eightfold Path, the arms on the Eightfold Path. And you've heard us talk about these arms over the years. I'm going to leave the image up while I talk, just because I really like it. And I like looking at it, and I'm almost talking to her while I'm talking to you. So I'll give you a list of the arms on the Eightfold Path. And this list varies. It's kind of a mixture of the traditional. And like I said, you've heard each of the teachers talk about them over the years, and we're just going to kind of bring them in and talk about them in a few talks over the next month. So the 8 arms are view, intention or imagination, speech, action, livelihood or survival, effort, awareness, and concentration or inward collectedness. And I can almost see each arm, representing one of those categories, and that they all kind of come together in us in a path, and then they are going to be developed in their own kind of unique fashion, yet together. So before each of the arms, there is a Pali word that precedes each arm. And Akichino Weber and John Peacock, they have a different take on this word. The Pali word is samma, S-A-M-M-A. And it gets translated quite a few different ways as wise, useful, right, appropriate, helpful, skillful. So it's nice to have kind of this range of terms. Or,
That's why it's kind of.
One second, I'm going to just stop my sharing and let's see if, okay, I'm going to mute. There we go. All right, I guess I'm back to you full time. I'll bring the octopus back at some point. But this kind of preceding word of samma, we are considering it as an attitude. And this was a little bit of a new take. So rather than trying to be right or trying to be wise, looking at it as an attitude of care, that comes before we set our intentions, an attitude of care that comes before we act, an attitude of care that that colors our views. That this attitude of care makes a huge difference on each of the spokes, each of the arms on the Eightfold Path. And care is a very rich word in Buddhist literature. We've had tons of talks on care. I could just use this whole talk to talk about care. But in general, it's a rich relational and important attitude in developing virtue, in developing nobility. So it's the opposite of recklessness and dangerous. It contains interest, thoughtfulness, curiosity, consideration. And so when we say the four-letter word care, there's so much involved within it. And in fact, I have brought out some words of John and Akichino, and I've kind of crafted them a little bit, but they were interested in what happens when we're not doing care. So this is their question, or my question, is it then negligence? Is it negligent to not care? How does negligence actually translate? The first thing that comes to mind, and this is John and Akichino, is when I don't care, I lose things. Complexity gets reduced. I'm preoccupied with the individual things at the expense of other things. Things fall down, they get burned, they hurt. So they're really equating negligence with what hurts, when it starts to hurt. So I'm looking at it this way. We really are developing a care GPS it's set to find what's ethical, what's virtuous, what's ennobling. It's not always evident also. On an ethical path, we make mistakes and we may be negligent at times, especially while we're refining and updating the GPS to hold kind of our new understandings and our development along the path. Nelly and I talk about the path becoming tried and true, that it has knocks in it, kinks in it. It's not this pristine path. And I'm going to put up the octopus again. So as I look at this image, I feel the sense of mystery and wonder. But as an image that says 1,000 words, it doesn't show all the hard knocks and the nicks and the kinks along the way. And many pictures don't. They just show us one angle, or we get a sense of it. But I just want to bring that in as we're looking at this, that I don't want to lose the complexity of this Eightfold Path and of this really magnificent being. So I will end my talk